Do we live in a world where gender stereotypes and norms exist? Yes. Now, it sucks that we do, and maybe they'll change in the future, but at the moment, that's the environment that we're in, and you've got to learn how to play the rules of the game. If you're playing Snakes and Ladders, you can't say, well, this isn't fair, I thought this was Monopoly. You've got to play the rules for Snakes and Ladders. When this comes to our speaking, there are different stereotypes and norms that the audience will perceive of a man who's speaking and a woman who's speaking. Generally speaking, men are seen as a little more competent and a little less warm. Women are seen as a little bit more warm and a little bit less competent. Again, I'm not saying these stereotypes are correct. They are just the stereotypes that people generally have. So if you are a male speaker, you need to think, okay, the audience are going to naturally see me as a little bit more competent, even if you're not necessarily actually are, but they're going to see you as a bit less warm. So you've got to have some more warmth coming through in your speech. So you might be sharing some vulnerabilities. You might want to talk a little bit more about your mistakes, failures. You might want to talk about relationships that you have in your life. So you're bringing that warmth into your speech and dialing that up. Women, on the other hand, you're going to naturally have a little bit more of that warmth coming through, but you want to ramp up how the audience sees you as competent. So you want to have a little bit more conviction in your statements instead of hedging. Maybe, perhaps you want to say this is and this isn't, we can and we will. You might also want to think about having that lower tone on some of those conviction statements. This is something that Elizabeth Holmes did really famously. She started to speak like this so that people would see her as competent. So don't do the Elizabeth Holmes fake shit, but understanding how having that lower, deeper voice is associated with competence, command, leadership. Again, that's not necessarily something that should be seen as more competent. It just is. So whether you are speaking as a man or a woman, you want to be aware of how the audience are naturally going to see some stereotypes that they might have of you, and then think about, well, how do I understand those stereotypes and how do I make sure that I'm coming across as someone who is highly competent and highly warm? You want to move the audience emotionally and connect with them, and you also want to be seen as someone who's an expert and a leader who can take them to where they want to go.